Year for you. Download the Waba Rewards app or order online at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill, it's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The USC women's basketball team got an uplifting win Thursday night. The Trojans, 1-6 in their last 7 games, regrouped to upset 8th-ranked Iowa 81-69 at the Galen Center. It was Iowa's first loss in the Big Ten Conference this season. The Trojans also snapped Iowa's 8-game winning streak. Kyra Dunn led the Trojans with 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Trojans are at home Sunday against Rutgers. The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, is also at home Sunday against Iowa. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight on the road. The Lakers are at Washington, the 6th game of their 8-game road trip. The Clippers take a 3-game winning streak into their matchup at Denver. A win would move the Clippers 1 game below 500. The Clippers were 15 games below 500 on December 18th. A win also would close out the Clippers' record in January at 12-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's do this. On the evening of Monday, January 26th, something special happened. Hundreds of people joined me for a live preview session on the anatomy of a great conversation, and we went deep, for starters, on the notion of curiosity. I mean, real curiosity. The kind that transforms how you connect with anyone, anywhere. We explored why most conversations fall flat, and I revealed 3 of the top 5 killers of curiosity that sabotage even the best communicators. But here's the thing, we only scratched the surface. The full 4-week journey begins Monday, February 16th with the Founding Members Cohort. This course is for podcasters, leaders, entrepreneurs, anyone who knows that your next great opportunity can begin or end with the quality of a conversation. Space in this Founding Cohort is limited, so go to TavishTalks.com right now. That's TavishTalks.com. Click register or scan the QR code. Don't let this conversation happen without you.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA. Talk 1580, download the app.
Welcome forward to the Jackson Jr. Show. The Trump administration has just arrested Don Lemon for daring to do journalism in the Trump era. Don is a friend, and I valued his work since he was on CNN. But this is more about not our friendship. Don is a special person. This is about the First Amendment, which is under attack by Donald Trump and his corrupt administration that is trying to silence journalists while ICE agents murder Americans in our streets. The arrest of Don Lemon is an outrageously authoritarian attack on the First Amendment. It's intimidation of journalists, just like they are intimidating Americans who dare to use their cell phones to film the lawless conduct of ICE agents beating and murdering Americans. We all have to stand up, call this out. This is lawlessness. This is weaponizing the Department of Justice to oppress the truth and silence Americans who seek the truth. Upon my arrival in Congress, if Democrats retake the House, I will lead the subpoena of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary and the Attorney General to answer for this lawlessness. I will hold them all accountable. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing their work. This is the statement from Abby Lowell, the attorney for Don Lemon. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed two peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump administration department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is a real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in a court of law. This is a real sad day for journalism in the United States of America. And I am so grateful that we are live on KBLA Talk 1580 and crisscrossing the country, crisscrossing the world by way of the app. A really, really difficult day. And we think back to what happened when an American journalist went to Saudi Arabia and lost his life. Subsequent reports suggested that Mr. Khashoggi had been dismembered. And when Donald Trump went to Saudi Arabia, he barely mentioned, if at all mentioned, an American citizen, Mr. Khashoggi, who had been reporting on the behavior of the Saudis in that region and around the world. When we think for just a moment about what we engage in and on here at KBLA, protected First Amendment speech, to interpret, to offer viewpoints, to offer thoughts, to have freedom of expression, to express our concerns to the world, and not suggesting that everything that we maintain is the truth, but the fact of the matter is this republic for 250 years, that's this year we're celebrating and commemorating the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, and then shortly thereafter that in 1787, the writing of the Constitution, and in 1791, the addition of the Bill of Rights. The hallmark of our constitutionality and the Constitution has been freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to fight for the right, the ability to agree and the ability to disagree. The arrest of Don Lemon last night along with the murders of Renee Good and Alex Pretty in Minnesota, is a turning point in the history of our understanding of historic constitutionality. We are looking at tyranny, not legal processes, not legal jargon. We are looking at tyranny of the highest order. The question is, at this hour, what are we, the American people, going to do about it? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward, right here on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sending to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes, and your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You got to go to child support court. You got to get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Sean. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room on one stage at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2025, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-259-4149. That's 800-259-4149. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-259-4149 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Fat Meat Fridays. It's the J Lunch Club, and our very special guest in this hour, Chicago historian Dilla. as he's affectionately called. It's a fascinating blend of modern historian, cultural worker, and public employee. Dilla has become a Chicago social media sensation by going viral on TikTok. His 60-second history videos on everything Chicago have been viewed over 20 million times, and he's amassed a following of 210,000 followers across all social media platforms. Dilla has been featured on all manner of Chicago media and has also appeared nationally on both The Today Show and The Kelly Clarkson Show. Dilla is a proud lifelong resident of Chicago's South Side. He lives by the saying that everything dope about America comes from Chicago. Through the power of storytelling, Dilla is changing the narrative locally and nationally about Chicago's value to the world. He's been named 2022 Chicago Tourism Ambassador of the Year by Choose Chicago, the tourism agency of the city. Dilla, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Oh, man, Brother Jackson, happy to be here.
Man, I am so glad you're here. Can we begin our conversation with your thoughts on Don Lemon and his arrest and the attack on the First Amendment?
Yeah, it's very troubling and dare I say, at least if I'm being honest, it's scary, right? Because what I do professionally is I'm a historian, right? That's how I provide food. I do lectures, I create content, and I root that storytelling, that historic storytelling in truth and in accurate information. And the hope is that I can't be targeted for that, right? The hope is that I'm protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution, and to see that a 30-year veteran of journalism can be hauled away and arrested, really without any kind of wrongdoing is a little beyond troubling. Like I said, it's actually causing me to be a little fearful for myself and others.
Dilla, you hint at the chilling effect, a fear factor in journalists having the ability to speak out and to be free in their expression. I mean, no different than Picasso painting a painting or Rembrandt painting a work of art. What you produce is actually art. And the idea that in your art you could be intimidated has to be very difficult for you as a journalist and for most Americans at this hour.
Yeah, very much so. I write a number of op-eds across the various city, outlets. I'm on TV across Chicago a lot, and the thought again that if I just say something accurate, right? If I report what I see, if I make a historic tie to something that's going on today, if certain people don't like the way that it sounds or the way that people are reacting to that, then I could be hauled away. And a brother got 7 kids and a wife and a dog and 2 cats, right? So it's beyond me. It's really about them, and that scares me.
They got a lot of mouths to feed.
Oh man,
and you add the dogs and the cats to it.
Oh yeah, they got to eat too.
Dilla, let me ask you. I want to hang around this subject for a moment because we're living in an era where the truth is difficult to convey, and the courage of a journalist. I was watching a documentary on the Vietnam War on Netflix, and those of you who are listening to my voice should watch it very carefully. It's a multi-episode series on Vietnam and the role that the Kennedy administration, the Johnson administration, and then the Nixon administration, the actions that they undertook to control the narrative that we were losing the war, and everyone knew that we were losing the war until the likes of Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather went on the ground in Vietnam and began conveying exactly what was taking place in these mud paddies and in these rice paddies and in these fields, telling a truth that was fundamentally different than the truth that was being portrayed or the message that was being portrayed by the President of the United States. The President of the United States, in the present context, from the bully pulpit, offers his version of the truth. But when the Dillas and the Don Lemons of life are on the ground, they're undisputable video evidence of what took place for Alex Preddy. And then we see Kristi Noem offer within minutes an interpretation of what was clearly inconsistent with what we saw from dozens of angles. and we hear the president echo the same inconsistency, and we hear Bovino echo the same inconsistency, and then we hear the vice president of the United States echo the same inconsistency. It's almost as if a conflict from 30, 40, 50 years ago finds itself in the untruth from the president of the United States right here at home.
Well, we've seen this sadly. You know, that's another thing that's very daunting for me as a historian. I see historical markers of things that have happened before and where they can lead. And sometimes the historical markers show me, oh, everything's going to be all right. We've seen this before. And other times it's, oh man, before everything became all right, there was this really dark space and place for people, and that sort of is how I'm seeing things now. But as I led with, this isn't new, right? It makes me think about the Chicago race riot of 1919 and how our mayor at the time was Big Bill Thompson, and how he was portraying what was happening on the streets to the media across the globe, and making it kind of look like, you know, these poor black folks in what we now today call Bronzeville were going on the offensive, and that wasn't the case. And to your point, it took until newspaper journalists and photographers actually went down in the streets, and the images that we have from the Chicago race riot are not, we're not taking just to preserve history. They were taken to prove the point that poor blacks on the south side of Chicago were not the aggressors. But yet, if we left it up to those in charge to tell us what was going on, it was a mistruth. And we're all kind of bred and designed to listen to our leaders, right? If the president tells you something, you're told as a little kid that the president is this honorable position, and he's going to be, you know, rooted in truth, and all the way down to our mayors and our governors. It makes me think about how Richard J. Daley talked about the Democratic National Convention in '68 and who the blame was shifted on, or the Dr. King riots on the west side of Chicago. So unfortunately, we've seen this before, and we've seen the results coming out of that. And that's what leads directly to the mistrust of public officials.
Dilla, let me ask you this question, because I think you've stumbled upon a methodology that matters not only in the city of Chicago, but one in Los Angeles, in Washington, D.C., in Detroit, Michigan, in Atlanta, Georgia, you name it. Every single city in the United States, in my opinion, should have a Dilla who has taken an interest in the contribution of our people locally, and it's led to a global platform for you. How did you begin this search for truth? And how did you determine that you could provide enough in a minute or two for people who have not read to be able to digest that truth and actually build a knowledge base on the basis of what you do?
To answer your first question, I would say, and I'm sure you're going to relate to this very much, my Chicago arrogance is what got me started. It was looking at particularly early TikTok, but other internet platforms as well, but looking at those platforms during the pandemic, and it seemed that everyone was able to show the best of what they had in those spaces. We were learning about small town USA. I was learning the history of rural mail. I was learning the history of cuisine. But anytime Chicago was mentioned, it was just always negative, right? You know, during the Bush regime, which Chicago got coined like Chirac, right, as compared to Iraq. And as a Chicagoan, I knew those things were not true. And I looked up, in it, we didn't have a Dr. Timeo Black Jr. anymore, right? At that point, the man was 100 years old. We can't keep relying on the past generation to tell the stories from the past, right? They have to pass the torch. And then I took a trip to Dublin, and even in their culture, there's a griot. There's someone who keeps the stories of the past so that the people in the future and present are aware of those stories. And so I took that charge. And like I said, it started with that I know that Chicago is the greatest city on earth. And, you know, people, I watch the internet and I'm looking on my phone and somebody's using their phone to talk bad about Chicago when the guy who invented the cell phone was born in Chicago, right? And so you can't, at one hand, hate Chicago while benefiting off of the things that Chicago has given the world. If you've ever gotten a car and turned the radio on, and the car radio was invented in Chicago. And so I started to tell those stories. And to your second point, I wasn't exactly sure how much information I could fit in 60 seconds in a 90-second video. And so my hope was not to spell it out from top to bottom, but to give you enough to where you would want to be curious. And what's my favorite thing when I'm not getting angry Chicago messages is the messages of people saying, hey, I watched your video. Can you give me your sources? I want to read that book. I want to go down that rabbit hole. And then that furthers, academic exploration, which is my whole goal. So that's how I got started. I'm always very conscious that any video I make or any story I tell about Chicago, I start with, what does that have to do with today? And if I can answer that question, then I'll make the video. And I try to keep it to a point to where you do have a free 60 seconds or 90 seconds to learn something new. And I hope that the thing that you learn makes you want to learn more.
The owner of our station, KBLA, Tavis Smiley, began a conversation series that he is promoting to encourage people who are in the podcasting and the radio and even in the space that you occupy, a series on how to have a great conversation. And I thought it fascinating that when you use the word curious, he's been promoting this idea that curiosity is a factor in a great conversation. And I find it somewhat interesting that when you use the word curiosity, you don't seek to answer all of the questions. You seek to pique the listener or the viewer's interest in the subject matter, and then you force them into this curiosity where they want more. That means that the end result, the end of the message that you send, you anticipate a reaction that brings them into a knowledge-based space.
Yeah, very, very much so. I don't know if you and the other Double J on the South Side, I say them like the smartest brothers in the city that you don't want to play with. And so I don't know if I would have found the words to frame it in the way that you just framed it. But it's exactly that. And oftentimes I'm doing it to bring someone from a position of being an adversary to at least a person who's open to having their perspective shifted. On my bus, I would easily say 50% of the people that take neighborhood tours with me are not from the neighborhood we're touring, and dare I say, maybe not of my same ethnicity or from Chicago proper, right? People come all the way from Kankakee, and I believe it's to either affirm what they believe, that the South Side of Chicago is some crap hole and they want to see it for themselves, and I offer a safe way to do that, or to challenge their own belief about what's possible in these spaces and what has come historically from these spaces. And so I'm proud of that, man. I'm really proud that a lot of that it starts with Chicago ain't nothing, and then you see my video, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, I really love The Wizard of Oz, and I didn't know The Wizard of Oz was written in Chicago. What else has been written in Chicago, right? And now, maybe I might not have made you want to pack up and move to Chicago, but at least you'll stop saying negative things about the city, because that has ripple effects for us Chicagoans as well.
I'm such an admirer of you and what you have done, because there are days when I can't necessarily traverse all of the city of Chicago, but I love the South Side, just like you do. And I spend a lot of time at 67th Street at Oakwood Cemetery. And sometimes I just walk around. Sometimes I just drive through. And I stop at the headstones of Ida B. Wells and the gravesite of Harold Washington. And I see Bishop Brazier and Enrico Fermi, who was one of the creators of the atom bomb at the University of Chicago. Albertina Walker, right? When I'm in the south suburbs on 179th and Halsted, I stop by and pay my respects to Bernie Mac, which is where he was laid to rest. And just across the street, at another cemetery, the gentleman who sang, "You don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time. Oh no." He's buried right across the street. And we worked really hard a few years ago, maybe about a decade ago, to actually get him a headstone. Some people may not know that he did not have a headstone since his death. But I am so grateful, Dilla, that you're taking this time with us and spending this hour with us to talk about the roots of that which inspires people's curiosity. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is none other than Dilla, historian, thinker, influencer. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says she would move to impeach the president if elected to the U.S. Senate, a stance Republicans argue could hurt her with Texas voters.
Texans love leaders who actually want to lead positively and improve the everyday lives of everyday Texans.
GOP strategist James Dickey says most Texans support the president. The Dayton, Ohio NAACP is calling for ICE to be defunded, launching a campaign called Dry ICE. Leaders say the push comes as thousands of Haitians in the region are set to lose temporary protected status next week, raising fears of increased immigration enforcement. And Black Olympic sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson was arrested in Orange County, California for speeding. Deputies say she was driving over 100 miles per hour and now faces a charge of dangerous excessive speeding. She's out on bond and due back in court next month. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Why do we grill to order at Waba Grill? Because it's just better for you. And our Asian-inspired menu has high-quality proteins that are healthier for you. Download the Waba Rewards app or order online at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill, it's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The USC women's basketball team got an uplifting win Thursday night. The Trojans, 1-6 in their last 7 games, regrouped to upset 8th-ranked Iowa 81-69 at the Galen Center. It was Iowa's first loss in the Big Ten Conference this season. The Trojans also snapped Iowa's 8-game winning streak. Kyra Dunn led the Trojans with 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Trojans are at home Sunday against Rutgers. The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, is also at home Sunday against Iowa. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight on the road. The Lakers are at Washington, the 6th game of their 8-game road trip. The Clippers take a 3-game winning streak into their matchup at Denver. A win would move the Clippers 1 game below 500. The Clippers were 15 games below 500 on December 18th. A win also would close out the Clippers' record in January at 12-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's do this. On the evening of Monday, January 26th, something special happened. Hundreds of people joined me for a live preview session on the anatomy of a great conversation, and we went deep, for starters, on the notion of curiosity. I mean, real curiosity. The kind that transforms how you connect with anyone, anywhere. We explored why most conversations fall flat, and I revealed 3 of the top 5 killers of curiosity that sabotage even the best communicators. But here's the thing, we only scratched the surface. The full 4-week journey begins Monday, February 16th with the Founding Members Cohort. This course is for podcasters, leaders, entrepreneurs, anyone who knows that your next great opportunity can begin or end with the quality of a conversation. Space in this founding cohort is limited, so go to TavishTalks.com right now. That's TavishTalks.com. Click register or scan the QR code. Don't let this conversation happen without you.
February 4th is Transit Equity Day. To mark the occasion, Metro is offering free rides all day on the 4th. Providing safe, accessible, and affordable transportation is a commitment Metro makes year-round. Learn more at thesource.metro.net. What if poetry wasn't something you studied, but something you felt? Poetry for the People, the June Jordan Experience, is now live at the Fountain Theater in Los Angeles, celebrating the life and legacy of June Jordan, visionary poet, activist, and truth teller. This vibrant musical experience brings her words to life with rhythm, joy, and power. Directed by Raymond O. Caldwell and featuring music by her longtime collaborator Adrian Torf, it's joy as resistance, love as liberation, and poetry for the people. Tickets are on sale now at fountaintheater.com. That's fountaintheater.com.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour is Chicago historian Dilla, as he is affectionately called. He is a fascinating blend of modern historian, cultural worker, and public employee. And I've been critiquing and analyzing his methodology that has inspired literally millions of people about the uniqueness of the city of Chicago. And I'm so grateful that he's our very special guest in this hour. Dilla, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Happy to be here, my brother.
I am so glad you're here. Dilla, share with us some untold, unique insights that you gained about the city of Chicago in your historic journey.
Oh, that's such a large question. It's almost like asking me which one of my kids is my favorite when all of my kids are standing there. You know what I mean?
I don't want you to do that.
So it's tough, but I learned so many untold or undertold things about Chicago. Last year I learned that a guy by the name of Dr. Richard Lawler, and you'll understand this as a Chicagoan, an Irish guy from Bridgeport whose father couldn't afford to send him to De La Salle. And so he sent him to Wendell Phillips during a time when Wendell Phillips was converting to, African-American high school. And anyway, Dr. Richard Lawler goes on to perform the world's first kidney transplant, right, at Little Company of Mary Hospital. And so things like that fascinate me, right? Our presence in medical history. I recently learned that it was a Chicagoan that first came up with the concept of learning disability, right? And how has that changed our ability to educate everyone once we figured out that everyone, you can be disabled as in accessibility, how you walk or how you get around it. You can be disabled in the way that you receive information. And the concept, Dr. Hubert is his name, learning disability comes from Chicago. I learned that, in the city of Chicago, we're so proud of our 77 neighborhoods, but I learned that those 77 neighborhoods, the boundaries that separate them are etched in the restrictive racial covenants of the 1900s. And so that's why Chicago still today is one of the most segregated cities in the country. It started in our city planning. But I also learned amazing things about us coming together. This is next week's going to be the 100th anniversary of the celebration of what we now call Black History Month. And in order to have that Black History Month, a guy named Carter G. Woodson established what we today call a Sala in Chicago at the Black Wabash YMCA on 37th and Wabash. but that building only exists because of the philanthropy of Julius Rosenwald, right? Who's one of the most philanthropic Americans the country has ever seen. So the breadth of things that I discover. I was in an Uber and the guy recognized me and he said, "Hey, you got to shout us out next time." I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "There are more Mongolian Americans in Chicago than anywhere else in the country." I'm like, "More Mongolian Americans?" And like, I can't even understand what would a Mongolian descendant even want to be in Chicago? It's so cold here. But he explains so many things, right? From the number of Palestinian Chicago Americans that live here to, we're a very diasporic city. And so I'm learning how those cultures have affected Chicago, and it makes me extremely proud.
And you should be. This is one of the most diverse cities in the United States, but it's also, as you correctly articulated, it's one of the most segregated. But I doubt it very seriously if contemporary leadership fully appreciates what you said, that it was built into city planning.
Yes.
I mean, they planned our neighborhoods based upon race and based upon a class and caste.
Very much so. There's if you're here in Chicago, there's a reason why the Dan Ryan Expressway separates Bridgeport from Bronzeville, right? That was intentional. When you have that type of separation, when you box people into neighborhoods, it makes it very easy to discriminate in those neighborhoods or provide services or not provide services to those neighborhoods. And it doesn't come off as you being racist or stereotypical or prejudiced. It just comes off that you're not supporting particular neighborhoods, right? But we all know who's in those neighborhoods. It was very much etched into the planning of the city, which has real effects on us today because that legacy determines the life expectancy of people who live in certain neighborhoods versus other neighborhoods. And it gives me hope though, because if you can plan for that, then you can plan to come out of that, right?
I'm wondering if you see the demographics of who's listening to your message. You mentioned Professor Timuel Black, who was an amazing man and a great leader and a great thinker, as a kind of holder of the history, a kind of griot, a kind of central figure around maintaining that. Do you see yourself in that capacity going forward as a kind of keeper of the faith?
That's some big shoes to fill. So I'll take just my toe in his flip flops, right? if I can get one toe in his flip flop, the people don't understand the reason that why we know that. It's probably in your childhood home's bathroom cabinet right now, orange can of Murray's hair pomade, right? You could never use the full can, but today we know that the barber Charles Murray was from Chicago. We only know that because of Tim Black. Today we know that Dinah Washington, John H. Johnson, Red Fox, and Harold Washington were all schoolmates. We only know, Dempsey Travis. We only know that because of Timuel Black, right? Timuel Black. So again, I'm trying to keep his legacy going. His widow, Miss Zenobia, is always telling me I'm doing a good job, and for me, that means the world. But not just brother Timuel Black, right? Chicago had a cultural historian by the name of Tim Samuelson, who, when the Pantheon building came down in Bronzeville, this white cat goes over and he starts taking the awning and the entrances and the posters so that we can have it for history. I'm really, really connected to Mr. Studs Terkel and how he expressed history. So I'm learning from everybody.
Studs, not Studs Terkel.
Studs was the man, and he Studs and he was about the working class, right? And uniting us together. So yeah, I'm trying to represent them all.
I'm wondering if your thoughts about contemporary leadership from your perspective and from your historical perspective, particularly from your generation, do you see or feel like this generation is going to be able to meet the needs of this hour, given what we confront nationally in the leadership that is so prevalent and so present? Do you feel like your generation?
No, and
you ready?
So my generation sometimes is, in my opinion, a little too reactive and not proactive in things, and so that scares me. Some of the people who are, millennials or Gen Xers or that meet in between, um, need to understand planning and strategy. I feel like the generation before me understood that the game was a game of interest, and every now and again, right, Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Rights. Sometimes you can throw a 90-yard bomb and boom, progress, right? But oftentimes it came at inches. Before Thurgood Marshall was able to argue the Shelby v. Kramer case and end restrictive racial covenants as illegal in the Constitution, we had to have Earl B. Dickerson win a very small case on behalf of Carl Hansberry and start that precedent. And so I'm worried that because of our frustration, and my generation certainly has the right to be frustrated. Our children are getting ready to be the first group of children that won't do better than their parents, and I take that very personally. But to fix that, if you go up to bat and you only swing for home runs, the score is going to be really, really low, and so I feel that way. I'm trying not to get myself in any trouble because I don't want to get in trouble, but just like even how people in my generation who are running for office, what their plans are if they win. And it's like, yeah, that sounds good, but you're not going to get 67 senators to go down that line. But you might get about 5 or 6 of them to come over and govern. Govern.
You about to preach right now. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More questions with Dilla when we come forward, and his word of hope at the end. More on KBLA Talk 1580. I appreciate you, brother.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
USC Visions and Voices invites you to the LA premiere of Major, an exciting new dance theater performance exploring the legacy of Majorette dance. Directed by award-winning choreographer Ogemdi Ude, Major combines music and movement to explore what it means to be proudly Black and proudly femme. Join us on Wednesday, February 4th at USC's Bovard Auditorium. Reserve your free ticket now at visionsandvoices.usc.edu. That's visionsandvoices.usc.edu. Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit LADWP.com/leap. That's LADWP.com/LEAP.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature-Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature-Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me.
Our very special guest, Chicago historian Dilla. Dilla is a proud lifelong resident of Chicago's South Side. He lives by the saying that everything dope about America comes from Chicago. Through the power of storytelling, Dilla is helping change the narrative locally and nationally about Chicago's value to the world. He's been named the 2022 Chicago Tourism Ambassador of the Year by Choose Chicago, the tourism agency of the city. Dilla, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Brother Jackson.
Dilla, I leave the last 3 minutes of our show, which of course ends at the top of the hour, for a word of hope. So I'll give you a moment to mentally prepare yourself for that. But I do want to ask you a follow-up question, because before we came forward, before the break, you were talking about the difference between this generation and the incremental approach to change that I had to unfortunately interrupt. But I'd like you to elaborate and to finish that thought, because some of us are impatient, right? Some of us don't understand that turning a battleship is different than turning a skiff or a little boat or pivoting on a basketball court. I mean, to move the whole front line of a football team is very different than running up and hitting a tennis ball by yourself. Share with us more of your thoughts on this generation, particularly the political leadership of this generation, and their need to understand the process and the ability to, if you will, move and persuade the American people.
Thank you for that. And it's I too suffer sometimes from being impatient, in many instances in my life. But the greatest thing anyone ever told me was, God bless the man who plants a tree knowing he will never sit under its shade. And I think that my generation sometimes doesn't realize that we're sitting under the shade of someone else's tree that they planted. And so we should want to make sure that we're leaving that behind for others. And this approach of all or nothing, most of the time leaves you with nothing. And, if you have 10 things that you want to knock out, if you say to yourself, I can't knock out all 10 of these things today, I'm not going to do anything because it isn't worth it. Well, you're setting yourself up to do a bunch of nothing. But what if you took that list and you said, well, I can knock these 3 things out really fast, and I have the skill and the resources to do so. And then you see that during that process, somebody offers you help for the other 2. And then you look up and you got 6 of the 10 things that you needed to take care of done, and you can keep moving forward that way. And I just think, and I'm particularly worried going into the midterm and coming out of the midterm, that if there is a changing of the guard, if the progressive wing of the country does take back the House or the Senate or any of that they're going to get in there swinging home runs, and they're going to take up time that could be used to govern and to help everyday Americans incrementally, right? As opposed to taking big swings and trying to eliminate whole administrations. How about we take a little bite and restore the funding that helps classrooms when they need paraprofessionals in to help our children learn? How about we, take bites and shore up our infrastructure? How about we take bites and shore up employment? And all of those things allow for people to trust you again. And when you do take those big swings, we know what your intentions are. We know what your capabilities are. And for my generation, like I said, we unfortunately are the microwave generation. Your generation, thankfully, went to grandma's house, and when she started cooking breakfast, she made the grits from scratch. She made the biscuits from scratch. In many instances, if y'all wanted a chicken wing, she went outside and wrung the chicken's neck and pull the feathers herself. And that allows not only for a more quality meal, but it taught patience, and that taught that something that's really, really worth it is going to take time. And unfortunately, I grew up in a time where you put your chicken nuggets in the air fryer, right? And, the results ain't always that good.
Before we give you a 3 minutes of your word of hope, I was in a debate with some statesmen and some stateswomen, but they were my junior. I must be candid. And we were talking about the Affordable Care Act, and the conversation was about how to save the Affordable Care Act. And everyone had all of these ideas and visions that were thoughtful. But I said the way in which the Affordable Care Act was written and drafted is the way to save it is to evolve it. That is, we never offered dental and vision and hearing in the Affordable Care Act. If we expand it now to include dental and vision and hearing, we bring 20 more people into the program, and we make it an even more popular program for people like me who need glasses, hearing aids, and everything else that presently isn't covered. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. To your point, build on what we did during the Obama years and expand it to include more people. Dilla is our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. And as is our custom on this show, our guests are always afforded the opportunity to offer us a word of hope. Dilla has about 3.5 minutes to do just that, and I'd like to make that offer to you.
Well, thank you. And I do have a message of hope. As a historian, what I can emphatically tell us all, whether you find yourself on the left or the right or in the middle, or you're just apolitical and you don't really care, is that we have seen these things before, right? I liken the George Floyd incident to the Red Summers of 1919 through 1921. I liken COVID to the influenza epidemic of 1918. And following that, there was a lot of turmoil coming out of the writings that cities and commissions that came from Tulsa and the Chicago race riot, the East St. Louis race riot. Folks got angry because the line of justice was moving. And that's when you've seen the relaunch of the KKK in Indiana and in places like Oak Brook. But coming out of that, you started to see people mobilize and connect with each other. And it's following those scary times that you get the Harlem Renaissance, that you get the Black Metropolis in Bronzeville. And following that, you start to move the line legislatively. And in a time in most cities where Blacks were confined and brown people were confined in one small spot, when we moved incrementally, we were able to change so many things. And so the writings is on the wall for that same type of change and that same type of hope. And I think we're going to look up and we're going to see that our resilience in this moment, our ability to unite with each other in this moment will stand the test of time. And when future generations look back at this moment, they'll be proud of the decisions that we made because we decided to stick together and be hopeful. And so I think it's okay to be worried. I think that there are real concerns. I think that there are very serious concerns, and I'm not telling you not to deal with those concerns. I have been on at Operation Push and heard many times that faith without work is dead. So I want you to continue to work, but there is the other side of that too. I want you to continue to have faith. And when you combine those two things, anything is possible. And I'm the proof of that. I am what happens when we put our best efforts forward. I live on the south side of Chicago. I'm a proud husband. In my garage is a 1970 Lincoln Mark III. I got all my Grail Jordans I ever could have wanted. And my wife is finer than I deserve. And that's all because I kept the faith and I worked hard. And I think that can be that same type of contentment that I have in my life. We can provide for others and for future generations. And we just stay strong and stay connected and together. And remember that any step forward is just that, a step forward.
What a word of hope on KBLA Talk 1580. I am particularly honored that Dilla has been our very special guest in this particular hour. There may be a reprieve in that he may come back to our show in just a few moments. But I do want to say that I heard revolutionary patience from Dilla just a few moments ago. We can be revolutionary, but we also can be patient in the processes to get there. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says she would move to impeach the president if elected to the U.S. Senate, a stance Republicans argue could hurt her with Texas voters.
Texans love leaders who actually want to lead positively and improve the everyday lives of everyday Texans.
GOP strategist James Dickey says most Texans support the president. The Dayton, Ohio NAACP is calling for ICE to be defunded, launching a campaign called Dry Ice. Leaders say the push comes as thousands of Haitians in the region are set to lose temporary protected status next week, raising fears of increased immigration enforcement. And Black Olympic sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson was arrested in Orange County, California for speeding. Deputies say she was driving over 100 miles per hour and now faces a charge of dangerous excessive speeding. She's out on bond and due back in court next month. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Why do we grill to order at Waba Grill? Because it's just better for you. And our Asian-inspired menu has high-quality proteins that are healthier for you. Download the Waba Rewards app or order online at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill, it's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The USC women's basketball team got an uplifting win Thursday night. The Trojans, 1-6 in their last 7 games, regrouped to upset 8th-ranked Iowa 81-69 at the Galen Center. It was Iowa's first loss in the Big Ten Conference this season. The Trojans also snapped Iowa's 8-game winning streak. Kyra Dunn led the Trojans with 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Trojans are at home Sunday against Rutgers. The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, is also at home Sunday against Iowa. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight on the road. The Lakers are at Washington, the 6th game of their 8-game road trip. The Clippers take a 3-game winning streak into their matchup at Denver. A win would move the Clippers 1 game below 500. The Clippers were 15 games below 500 on December 18th. A win also will close out the Clippers' record in January at 12-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's do this. On the evening of Monday, January 26th, something special happened. Hundreds of people joined me for a live preview session on the anatomy of a great conversation, and we went deep, for starters, on the notion of curiosity. I mean, real curiosity. The kind that transforms how you connect with anyone, anywhere. We explored why most conversations fall flat, and I revealed 3 of the top 5 killers of curiosity that sabotage even the best communicators. But here's the thing, we only scratched the surface. The full 4-week journey begins Monday, February 16th with the founding members cohort. This course is for podcasters, leaders, entrepreneurs, anyone who knows that your next great opportunity can begin or end with the quality of a conversation. Space in this founding cohort is limited, so go to TavishTalks.com right now. That's TavishTalks.com. Click register or scan the QR code. Don't let this conversation happen without you.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Trump administration just arrested Don Lemon for daring to do journalism in the Trump era. Don is a friend, and I valued his work since he was on CNN. But this is more than me knowing Don or about our friendship. This is about the First Amendment, which is under attack by Trump and a corrupt administration that is trying to silence journalists while ICE agents murder Americans in the streets. The arrest of Don Lemon is an outrageously authoritarian attack on the First Amendment. It's intimidation of journalists, just like they're intimidating Americans who dare to use their phones to film the lawless conduct of ICE agents beating and murdering Americans. We all have to stand up, call this out. This is lawlessness. This is weaponizing the Department of Justice to oppose and oppress the truth and silence Americans who seek the truth. Upon my arrival in Congress, if Democrats retake the House, I will lead the subpoena of the DHS Secretary and the Attorney General to answer for this lawlessness. I will hold each and every one of them accountable. This is the statement from Abby Lowell, the attorney for Don Lemon. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing their work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest. And that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in a court of law. A sad day in America when we can witness a career journalist whose reputation is in nothing but journalism attacked for what he is reporting and covering so that the truth may be revealed to the American people. You're listening to Fat Meat Fridays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is the J Lunch Club, and on Fat Meat Fridays, our regular host, Gina Towns, president and CEO of 519 Productions and the executive producer, creative director, and program director of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Smiley Audio's Media, KBLA Talk 1580. She's the host of Reflectivity on our weekly series, Fat Meat Fridays, a graduate of Hampton University with a Bachelor of Arts in Mass Arts and Journalism. Gina's also earned a Master's of Arts in Theology, Social Justice from Princeton Theological Seminary. Gina, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hi, Jesse.
How are you?
I'm okay. You know, we are all taking one day at a time right about now.
We most certainly are. Also in this hour, our very special guest, Reverend Michael C.R. Neighbors, is the senior pastor of the historic Second Baptist Church in Evanston, Illinois. The 140-plus-year-old church is one of the oldest African-American congregations on the North Shore. Recently, Second Baptist Church has become a leading faith center in America in facilitating race, talk, solidarity circles in local communities. He has a Master of Divinity degree with an emphasis in systematic theology and the Masters of Theology with an emphasis in ethics at Princeton Theological Seminary in Princeton, New Jersey, and the Doctor of Ministry focusing on African-American preaching at United Theological Seminary. Pastor Neighbors, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse, I'm happy to be here and excited, and there's no more important time for us to be discussing issues of the day than now.
I appreciate you, Pastor. Can I ask you your opinion and your thoughts on the arrest of Don Lemon?
It is absolutely reprehensible that Don Lemon has been arrested. We know that he has been an outstanding journalist, as you mentioned, over 30 years. We know that he comes correct, he comes impartial, he comes telling the news and the information through the lenses of an outstanding journalist and reporter. As a result of his being arrested, I hope that this is a segue into helping America to wake up and to realize that once our First Amendment rights are denied and there's no longer a free press, then there's no longer a democracy either.
Gina?
That's fact. As a journalism major myself, we've grown up in a generation where we witnessed people like Walter Cronkite, and we are used to having the news. And there was a time when we trusted the news. It's gotten a little bit shaky now, but the fact that it's under threat as it is, and then particularly with someone like Don Lemon, who has been nothing faithful to his craft, is very alarming and should be alarming to a lot of people.
I find it somewhat appalling when we think, Pastor Neighbors and Gina, about what happened to the journalist Khashoggi. I believe he worked for the Washington Post.
Yeah.
And the president of the United States continued meeting with the Saudi and the Saudi Crown Prince regarding business deals. And I understand that the President of the United States never mentioned the dismemberment or the human rights of an American citizen who was dismembered, I believe, in an embassy owned by the Saudi government while visiting Saudi Arabia. And it was a telltale sign of things to come. And so what this administration is capable of doing is not only arresting journalists who are American citizens, they are capable of torturing them. They are capable of allowing them to be tortured. And in the case of Mr. Khashoggi, they are capable of allowing them, Gina, to be killed.
Absolutely. And the whole notion that ICE can kick in your door without any sort of judicial process and come into your home is very alarming as well.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 on Fat Meat Fridays. Reverend Michael C.R. Neighbors, Senior Pastor of the Historic Second Baptist Church in Evanston, Illinois, is our very special guest. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were seen to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, give me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm two. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You got to go to child support court. You got to get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Sean. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room on one stage at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2025, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-259-4149. That's 800-259-4149. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-259-4149 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jackson Jr. Show. King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Ebony Magazine posts the arrests of journalists Don Lemon and Georgia Fort are fueling renewed concerns about press freedom and the First Amendment protections. Both were taken into custody by federal agents in connection with their coverage of a January protest in St. Paul, Minnesota, despite stating they were present in a journalistic capacity. Advocacy groups and fellow journalists have condemned the arrests, warning that they set a dangerous precedent for news gathering and the rights of the press as immigration protests continue to escalate. Gina, we are in uncharted territory.
At least for our generation and for our country. I was watching a Netflix series entitled Hunters. And unfortunately, I saw some scenes that were eerily close to what we see in the streets of Minneapolis and what some of the journalists and everyday citizens have been capturing on their cell phones. And thank God for cell phones that, we can actually see what's going on and we can take heed to those situations. But it really is a lot. And especially if you have children, no matter what age your children are, the elderly, you have some concern, not only for your own life, but for the lives who are, for those people who are a little bit less able to take care of themselves.
Pastor Neighbors, we saw Kristi Noem just moments after Alex Preddy's assassination, literally look the American people right in the face and tell us a bold-faced lie. And then, of course, at least a dozen different camera angles have emerged that we can't even imagine the correlation or the connection between what she said and the reality that we saw. And we expect more from our government officials than that. We heard a similar parroting from Bovino and the Vice President of the United States and the President of the United States as well. That gives me pause, profound pause, when I think not only about these journalists, but I think about their security, and I think about their safety, because this administration is capable of lying about what happens to someone in their custody. Pastor Neighbors?
Jesse, yeah, I think that is such a grave concern, and I appreciate your bringing that up. There is no question and no doubt in my mind that it is shocking that a person of Kristi Noem's stature and position could lie so easily and so quickly after an incident. It was almost as if she didn't care whether she was lying or not. She didn't care whether or not there were a dozen phone cameras that were looking at the incident that took place. I think that she felt that because of her position and because of her authority and because of the administration, she can say whatever she wants to say. And this didn't just start. It seems to me, when I stop and think about the way we're being talked to by the president and the vice president and others in the cabinet, it started in his first administration. And there were two phases that occurred one right after the other. And the first one was when the current president started using the term fake news. For him, he was able to describe anything that the general media was putting out as fake news. And he was able to parlay a tremendous amount of support from folks who doubted the authenticity of general journalism and media. And then, of course, he had a spokesperson at the time that also came up with another kind of interesting phrase called alternate facts. So when you put together fake news and when you put together alternate facts, then what you're doing is engaging in mind manipulation. You're manipulating the minds of people so that they are doubting what their eyes can see. They're doubting what their ears can hear. And they're more prone to believe in somebody that is a liar, that there's no truth in them, that is evil, that is malevolent, because it bodes well with their own sense of the world and what they think the world ought to be. So in my estimation, it is heinous, but it has been going on for a long time. Richard Nixon lied to the American people, just like there was nothing with the Watergate incident. So we can go back in time and see all of these elected people who lied in order for their agenda to be pressed first.
You know, I asked this question yesterday of a guest, Pastor Neighbors, that what is the likelihood that the behavior that we are seeing ICE, which normally works on our borders, out of the purview or the sight of the American people, securing our borders, protecting our national security, we are now seeing and witnessing as Americans their behavior on our streets. What is the likelihood that on our borders, under the auspices of these same agents, that human rights atrocities have been and continue to take place that we never see?
Oh my goodness, Jesse. I mean, there is no question that when folks do not feel like the spotlight is on them, when they feel like there is no one to hold them accountable for their actions and what they're doing, it is probably 10 or 20 times worse on the borders. And that's why I think journalism is so very important. That's why I think it's important that folks have to be held accountable for their actions. But I think we want to get this real as well. And when I say we want to get it real, keep in mind that ICE has been doing this for a long time. And their atrocities, for the most part, have been aimed at Black and brown people on the borders that are trying to come into the United States and make life better for themselves and for their families. It really was not until Renee and Alex were killed that America seems to have awakened, and a great many white Americans seems to have awakened and recognize that we've got a problem, and it's a serious problem. And I am of the belief that if Renee and Alex had been Black or brown, there would not have been the kind of awakening that we've had in the past few weeks. I appreciate that. I love that. It's long overdue. But now we have Blacks and browns who have suffered so greatly that are finally joined by millions and millions of white allies. And I'm hoping that that will make a difference and begin to move us in the right direction in holding ICE accountable, in holding Homeland Security accountable, and in holding the President of the United States accountable.
You know, I'm thinking in this moment that it was clear in 1965 that the death of Reverend James Reeb on March 11th, 1965, and the death on March 25th, 1965 of Viola Liuzzo, that when you think about the hundreds, maybe the thousands, the scores of African Americans who had endured the peculiar institution of slavery and first Reconstruction and the Jim Crow era, and the number of people who were disappeared in each of those eras, in the tens of thousands, maybe the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions, that James Reeb and Viola Liuzzo led Johnson to the floor of the Congress to say that something is happening in America. And I think that's what I just heard from Pastor Neighbors, that the deaths of Renee Good and the deaths of Alex Preddy are bringing millions of Americans into the conversation that we have long endured. Gina?
I have a question on the back of that, because you say people have awakened now because of that, and there's a historical precedent for people awakening to that. You know, during the first Trump administration, there were news networks who were signing on for this false narrative and allowing certain things to be said that they knew were not true. And now you see them backpedaling because they are subject to, they see the harm that it's doing. It's affecting their ratings because there's a certain section of that population, and if you call them MAGA or whatever, who are like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for that. But I'm just curious, Reverend Neighbors, what is it in us as a people, and certainly not all of us, but what is it that makes people search for what their itching ears want to hear, that they can sign on for the lies, and even now with the advent of social media and AI, it's even worse that people are inventing their own news. What is it within us that causes that?
Oh, Gina, I mean, what a great question. My first response is saying that is very familiar in the tradition of Americans and probably everybody in the world. Folks go along to get along. So you recognize that things are difficult. You sort of hope for the best and want for the best, but instead of putting too much attention on yourself, instead of potentially endangering yourself or endangering members of your family or of your circle, you sort of just back away and hope that things are going to get better. It's sort of like Monday morning quarterbacking at the same time. So, when the game is going on Sunday, you're not in the game, you have a certain perspective, but on Monday morning, you're telling everybody what they should have done. And so I think that's a part of human nature. I think that's a part of human nature in some people more than others. I think if you look at those out of the African diaspora that landed in the Western Hemisphere, I think we have less of that because we know how important it is to be in the game. We know how dangerous it is to be able to say, we're going to go along to get along. Because as Jesse just shared, there are tens of thousands and perhaps hundreds of thousands who have lost their lives because folks did not stand up and speak up and then advocate for those who are suffering. And I think that's what's happening right now. I do believe that these mass protests, the No Kings rallies that are going on, even in tiny Evanston up here just north of the city of Chicago, there are so many protests that are happening and going on where 1,000 people are showing up, 500 people are showing up. Evanston Township High School is one of the biggest in the country. The students themselves decided that they would walk out of school today at 11 o'clock, and 500 of them left the high school and walked a mile down to the center of the town, to Fountain Square, to engage in their protests against ICE. And I want you to imagine that happening everywhere. You are in Chicago, so it's tens of thousands of people who are protesting. So now is the time for that to happen. Now is the time for us to say we can no longer believe that to go along to get along is the best route. We've got to stand up, we've got to speak out, and we've got to believe that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it sways towards justice. God is on our side because God is a God of justice, and as Cone said, God is a God of the oppressed.
I'm sorry, Gina.
Yeah, so in our last segment, we had Dilla Sherman Thomas on, and he did a really great job. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough time because I just wanted to ask, he and Jesse were engaging in a conversation, and I remember the great Joe Madison, the Black Eagle, just said, without sacrifice, we can make no progress. And I give that akin to the scripture, unless a kernel of a seed falls to the ground, it can't multiply. How much devastation in a generation that really hasn't had to go through a whole lot, that'd be X, the millennials, and Gen Z and Alpha, haven't had to go through a lot. What do you think is going to take for us to be able to move the needle on a federal government who seems opposed to the people?
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. I think, Gina, that it's going to take an awful lot. It may take more than what folks in the United States have ever been able to do before. And I say that giving great respect to what has happened historically. But what we are doing now is we are experiencing the unrest of this terrible racist government that is heaping all sorts of revenge down upon people that are of color, that people who are oppressed, those who are on the margin. But we're also dealing with a government that has never made amends with sins of the past. So we're in a nation where, guess what? Slavery ended because of the Civil War, but it produced racism. It produced the Ku Klux Klan. It produced all of these different forms of heinous discrimination. And the United States never really stood up and said, we condemn slavery for what it did and how it hurt so many people. We condemn the Ku Klux Klan. We have not done that as a people. And so we've got to not only deal with all of that and come to grips with the original sin of this country, but we've also got to come to grips with the new sin that is arising in our day and age right now.
To add insult to injury, there is significant speculation that Don Lemon will be charged with an offense that hasn't been brought in decades, and that is under the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, an act designed to fight white supremacy and to fight discrimination against African Americans. Imagine that. They've turned the narrative completely on its head. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More with Pastor Neighbors and Gina Towns when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former Sangamon County, Illinois Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for killing a black woman, Sonia Massey.
We prayed that this would happen, that he would get the maximum sentence.
Massey's father spoke after sentencing as Grayson apologized to the family. Grayson was convicted of second-degree murder for shooting the unarmed black woman in her Springfield home after she called 911. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is disputing President Trump's claims about low-income housing in Pacific Palisades. Bass says the city is focused on rebuilding after the fires and is not planning affordable housing there, adding she's banned duplex projects in the area. And former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel could be subpoenaed to testify in a federal police misconduct trial starting Monday. The case centers on his past comments acknowledging a police code of silence tied to a 2018 botched raid on a black family. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Why do we grill to order at Waba Grill? Because it's just better for you. And our Asian-inspired menu has high-quality proteins that are healthier for you. Download the Waba Rewards app or order online at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill, it's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The USC women's basketball team got an uplifting win Thursday night. The Trojans, 1-6 in their last 7 games, regrouped to upset 8th-ranked Iowa 81-69 at the Galen Center. It was Iowa's first loss in the Big Ten Conference this season. The Trojans also snapped Iowa's 8-game winning streak. Kyra Dunn led the Trojans with 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Trojans are at home Sunday against Rutgers. The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, is also at home Sunday against Iowa. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight on the road. The Lakers are at Washington, the 6th game of their 8-game road trip. The Clippers take a 3-game winning streak into their matchup at Denver. A win would move the Clippers 1 game below 500. The Clippers were 15 games below 500 on December 18th. A win also would close out the Clippers' record in January at 12-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
February 4th is Transit Equity Day. To mark the occasion, Metro is offering free rides all day on the 4th. Providing safe, accessible, and affordable transportation is a commitment Metro makes year-round. Learn more at thesource.metro.net.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns, President and CEO of 519 Productions, Executive Producer, Creator, and Program Director of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Smiley Audio Media's KBLA Talk 1580, and our very special guest, Reverend Dr. Michael C.R. Neighbors, Senior Pastor of the historic Second Baptist Church in Evanston, Illinois. Gina and Reverend Neighbors, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
2 minutes ago, written by Reuters, published by Reuters, Explainer, what does a law protecting abortion clinics have to do with Don Lemon? How did Don Lemon violate the law? Lemon, an independent journalist and former CNN anchor, live-streamed a demonstration earlier this month that interrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota, protesting President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown in the area. Lemon, an outspoken critic of Trump, can be seen arguing with the parishioner about immigration enforcement. Lemon is charged with violating an 1871 law originally designed to combat the Ku Klux Klan by conspiring to deprive others of their civil rights, and violating the FACE Act by obstructing access to a house of worship. Federal agents also arrested 3 other people, including independent journalist Georgia Fort, and charged them with violating the FACE Act in connection with the church protest. You know, Dr. Neighbors, I've got to say the hypocrisy is astounding. When we think about, there are great people or good people on both sides. In Charlottesville, the president's infamous statement. I don't believe any of the good people on both sides, any of them were charged with violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. And the Ku Klux Klan Act was specifically designed for their behavior.
Yeah.
And at no point in time was there the invocation of this particular act. And I haven't confirmed this yet, but is it possible that Don Lemon is the first African American in American history to be charged under the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871? Gina?
It's highly possible. It's a problem. You can go ahead and bet some money on it if you want to. I mean,
is he part of an organized Klan?
It's just outrageous. It really is. It's very sad. It's a sad moment in our history. It is 3 steps backwards, 4 steps backwards. This is not to take 2 steps back so you can take 1 forward. That's not what this is.
Reverend Neighbors?
Yeah, I certainly agree with Gina. It is literally incomprehensible that such a charge would be brought against Don Lemon going back to 1871. Those are sort of very small minded legalists that are doing everything they can to justify the arrest of a well known journalist for terrible, terrible reasons and rationale. But Jesse, what I want to say, and I think this is important, I don't want to take away from this, but I believe that there is a sort of interconnectedness. There is a sort of intersectionality that is happening right now that is a really part of a plan that is straight out of the Project 2025 book. And that plan has to do with absolutely dissolving the structure of our country, a structure that has given rights to those who were denied rights, a structure that has placed emphasis on the first class role of women, of minorities in this country. And so when we think about what is happening now with the destruction of the First Amendment with Don Lemon and with Georgia Ford and others, because I think others are going to come, you also have to include what's happening with the electoral process and how the FBI went down to Fulton County and now they're opening up an investigation that was closed 5 years ago. You also have to include what's happening with immigration and how they are sending off black and brown bodies. That's also related to voting. It's also related to elections. You have to include what they've done to education, not only higher education, but even the banning of books. They're trying to dumb down America. You have to include what all of the injustices of the judicial system, of the legislative system, and of course we know about the executive branch. So I think that what they're doing is they're trying to bring so much at us at the same time that it becomes overwhelming. And the strategy for being able to fight against all of these at the same time stretches us thin. And I think that's a strategy that they're trying. And what we have to do is we have to be equal to the task, and we have to strategize, and we have to come together. We have to plot and plan. And yes, we have to pray as well. But all of that means that we have to put the focus of education back into the mainstream of society. And I don't know if you all recognize this, but I think that our country is sinking in so many ways. And I think a lot of that is due to the issue of education in our country. You all know 12th graders, for instance, were reading at a certain rate in 1970. That's dropped 60% as of 2020. It has gone down. That's for 12th graders. Of all of the people that were responsive to a poll that was taken about reading books a couple of years ago, Americans said that they read 5 books. The average American reads 5 books in one whole year. Now, you all, I don't know about you all, but I read 5 books the first 3 weeks of January. So I just there is a dumbing down that is related to this sort of critical, terrible attitude that Trump and his people have about the masses of people in this country. And so when you put all of that together, it seems to me, getting back to your primary point, yes, of course, they would use something like 1871, some obscure Ku Klux Klan law, because that's how they think. They think in terms of minimizing instead of maximizing intelligence and scholarship.
You know, I'm thinking, and I already know what I'd like to ask you for the close at the end of the program in the next segment. You have wonderfully described and articulately, but carefully and deliberately described chaos. And so when we do get to our final word of hope, Dr. King gave us a challenge. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?
Yeah.
And he must have given some reflection to the idea of what constitutes chaos. And as you said, so much is coming at us so quickly, so fast, and from so many different angles that it's almost incomprehensible or incapable of processing it. Before I turn this over to Gina, I did want to say that I doubt it very seriously if the average American reads 5 books in a year. And I know that you read 5 books in the first week of January, but there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, Americans are not reading that much information that quickly over the course of a year, where even a single book requires a level of reflection to read between the lines and to read the spirit energy of the author themselves. Gina?
You know, while you were talking, Reverend Neighbors, Dr. Neighbors, I was thinking about the past 30 years. And some of this has been going on in the breakdown of and the degradation of our culture in general. And so this is not necessarily new. It is that people, when they see it actually crumble, when there's actually a break. It's one thing if you use watercolors or, you know, a regular color and then it gets some water on it and it becomes a watercolor. That's one thing. But when the color is gone altogether, you pay attention to it. When it becomes night and there's no stars in the sky, you pay attention to it. So, you know, I thought about the music industry. I thought about the film industry. I thought about the clothing industry and all of these things that have played a part in America and Americans not paying attention. And people around the world talk about it, but we haven't paid much attention to it. And the whole notion of reading and studying anything, you know, certainly has gone by the way as a pastime for our kids. What do you think about that? I know we're short on time and we're going to have to probably discuss this at length when we come forward, but just to put that out there for you.
Gina, thank you. Yeah, it is nothing new. And, you know, Ecclesiastes tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. And I think that you pointed that out brilliantly in terms of the way that you have analyzed what has happened over the last 30 years. So I think there is a systemic effort on the part of people who are in control, who are predominantly white, if not almost all white, who are very, very wealthy, to control every single aspect of our society, every single aspect of our country. And I think there's always money behind that. There's always the sort of economic benefits of being able to have that kind of control. But I certainly think that's what's happening, and you hit it spot on.
I love the way you two Princeton theological students, philosophers, ministers actually think. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm from Chicago Theological Seminary. More when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caSMPvolunteer.org.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-242-1551. That's 800-242-1551. 800-242-1551.
Let's do this. On the evening of Monday, January 26th, something special happened. Hundreds of people joined me for a live preview session on the anatomy of a great conversation, and we went deep, for starters, on the notion of curiosity. I mean, real curiosity. The kind that transforms how you connect with anyone, anywhere. We explored why most conversations fall flat, and I revealed 3 of the top 5 killers of curiosity that sabotage even the best communicators. But here's the thing, we only scratched the surface. The full 4-week journey begins Monday, February 16th with the Founding Members Cohort. This course is for podcasters, leaders, entrepreneurs, anyone who knows that your next great opportunity can begin or end with the quality of a conversation. Space in this founding cohort is limited, so go to TavishTalks.com right now. That's TavishTalks.com. Click register or scan the QR code. Don't let this conversation happen without you.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson.
Listen to me.
Jesse Jackson.
Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
Here, KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns and our very special guest, Reverend Dr. Michael C.R. Neighbors, pastor of a very historic Baptist church in Evanston, Illinois, Second Baptist, more than 140-year-old, and is one of the oldest African-American congregations on the North Shore. Pastor Neighbors, welcome forward to the show. I think Pastor Neighbors, welcome forward to the show. Gina.
Yes.
In the interim, I think Pastor Neighbors' microphone may be muted. I'm wondering if, because I do want to hear his word of hope at the conclusion of the show. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? In this moment, we've never seen what the chaos could be. We've never seen it. The title sounded catchy when we first heard it from Martin Luther King Jr., but I'm not so sure that we fully appreciated that the chaos could be so overwhelming. And don't get me wrong, it's been chaotic all along, but nothing quite like what we're seeing. We put so much emphasis on community that we've not given much consideration until recently to what the alternative truly looks like. This is chaos.
I think we've actually been striving for that community. We haven't achieved what we wanted to achieve. I mean, and you've seen it almost disintegrate in some ways. You've seen it just past your reach at some points in times as we talk about building community, because people are so consumed with where they have to go, what they have to do. Everything is a microwave moment now. Even the time that we spend with our children, is all been subject to community building. I mean, there used to be a parent-teacher association where you would go and you had a partnership. Your neighbors were partners. Now we don't even know our neighbors. So the whole sense of community, but we got to get to it right now. We will have to be our neighbor's keeper.
Pastor, I was suggesting to Gina, and again at the top of the show, which is about 2 minutes from now, can't wait to hear your word of hope centered around where do we go from here, chaos or community. I was commenting that while Dr. King clearly led us in the direction of community, and his period was chaotic for the times within which he lived, I'm not so sure we really prepared ourselves for the level of chaos that we're seeing today. This is a chaos beyond maybe even that Martin Luther King Jr. himself could have contemplated.
Yeah, Jesse, I don't doubt that. I will say that at the end of Dr. King's life, and especially within the last year of his life, there was a kind of chaos that he was confronted with that I think most Americans were not aware of. I became aware of it as a Proctor Fellow. Sam Proctor was very, very good friends with Dr. King. And of course, when Dr. King stood in the pulpit of the Riverside Church in 1967 and denounced the Vietnam War, that created a tension. And that tension came from President Lyndon Johnson at the time and all of those who supported Johnson. So Proctor would tell us as we were studying under him that Martin Luther King Jr. really did wind up dying a very lonely man. He was isolated from the great majority of people who had sung his praises for many, many years. And so I think that was a kind of chaos. Of course, he wrote Where Do We Go From Here years before that, but I think he sensed it. But what we have right now, Jesse, I don't think anybody could have imagined that 50 years ago.
I think that's absolutely right. Gina, maybe a closing thought before Pastor Neighbors takes us to a higher place.
Just a quick question, Pastor Neighbor. How do we need to go knock on our neighbor's door right now? How do we build that community very quickly that can realize what's going on and have a vision for overcoming?
Yeah. We have to knock on our neighbors' doors, but at the same time, Gina, I think we have to utilize some of the existing structures in our communities as well. So I know for us, again, Evanston is very small. It's not like a Chicago, but we have clergy groups here where over 90 houses of worship are involved in those clergy groups. And that's one way of getting a message out literally overnight. We also have a very active group of folks who are council members. We have an active group that's a part of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce. And we're able to get word out, especially in terms of emergencies, to gather together, to hold vigils, to say, this is what is confronting us right now. So I would say we need to knock on doors and get to know our neighbors, but we also have to appeal to existing structures.
Even in big cities like Los Angeles and Chicago and New York, those are the things that we have to do.
Indeed.
Pastor Neighbors, where do we go from here? Chaos or community?
Yeah. Well, the quick answer to that is we have to go to community, but we have to go to community recognizing that currently we are also existing in a state of chaos. And how do we do that? I think one of the things that we have to do, which is most important, is we have to engage in self-care. I think that the onus and the burden of these times is really weighing heavily upon our people. It's weighing heavily upon us psychologically and mentally and even spiritually as well. And all of that can add to terribly frustrating times in terms of our physical well-being as well. And so when I talked about reading 5 books, what I meant to say was reading 5 books in the first month of the year is a sort of catharsis for me. It allows me to be able to deal with some of these urgent realities that we're facing, because I love to read fiction. I love to read novels. And I read books like Dominion by Addie Sitchins and Ring Shout by DJ Clark. And I read Mike Dyson's Tears, We Cannot Stop, and What Truth Sounds Like. I also ended with The Message by Coach. So, that was allowing me to not only deal with the reality that we're facing, but to be able to get away from it, to sort of find myself absorbed in a sort of fanciful flight of imagination, which is so important. So I think that's a part of what we need to deal with these difficult times. Where do we go from here? We have to let folks know we are not fearless, but we are brilliant. We are courageous, and we are faithful to a God who orders our steps. And whatever we're facing right now, when we know that and when we recognize that beyond the shadow of a doubt, we can confront anything. We can confront our president and the administration. We can confront the FBI and Kash Patel. And we've got to remind those folk that they are not private armor bearers to the president. They work for the American people. As a matter of fact, they have 350 million bosses. And we are one of those bosses, each and every one of us. So when we know that, we're ready to move forward.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., our pastor. Reverend Michael C. Neighbors has been with us on Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns. More when we come forward next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580.